because it's your panel now, Albert. Want to introduce everyone and get the ball rolling.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. Always a pleasure to be back. So I think we got a really rich panel when I look at sort of the cast members who would join me. So I hope everyone takes some level of rich insights away from it. So we have Matt Myers, Head of Acquisition of Haven Life, will be joining. Welcome, Matt.
Hi, nice to be here. Happy to be here.
We have John, who's VP of Cross-Channel Paid Media at Wells Fargo. Welcome, John. And John, just so you know, you're on mute. And then we got Taylor Rock, Acquisition Manager, DTC for the Clorox company. And good to meet you. Good to see you as well. And he sits on a few brands, I believe, specifically under Clorox, to be clear. We got Burt's Bees. What else do you sit on, Taylor? It'd be great just for the audience to know this.
Yeah, so I work on the supplements team here at Clorox. So some of the brands that I sit over, besides Burt's Bees, CBD line, include Objective Wellness and Stop Aging Now.
All right, sounds good. So listen, before we get into it, I want to make sure that everybody knows who all the players are. So as I kind of let Taylor get into specific on the Clorox company, I'm going to allow Matt, tell us kind of in a snapshot who Haven Life is so the audience knows and what you sit on in terms of what's called products and services, how you categorize.
Absolutely. So Haven Life, we're a wholly owned subsidiary of Mass Mutual, one of the nation's largest kind of insurance companies. Excuse me. And we're really focused on direct-to-consumer buying experience for a product that's traditionally been agent served, right? So targeting a younger, more mobile, more affluent customer and trying to get them by direct-to-consumer in their kind of busy days, as opposed to, you know, the lengthy process that involves kind of an agent to sell. All
right. Sounds good. And then John, I'm gonna toss it over to you. Just give the audience, a quick soundbite in terms of from the Wells Fargo side, what product services business unit you work with or oversee, so they have context.
Sure. So hopefully everybody is aware of Wells Fargo. We're one of the leading national banks here in the U.S. We provide a wide variety of financial services and products, basically soup to nuts from a financial standpoint, from the consumer side all the way up to the wholesaler B2B side with large commercial operations serving large businesses like Clorox and some other large businesses. I work within integrated media, manage mainly the brand side of the programs, so a variety of different branding opportunities throughout the Wells Fargo brand.
All right, that sounds good. All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. So obviously 2020 was a year like no other, and I'm gonna kind of just punch through some headlines and bring it to a summary point before we get into it. You know, you think about the impact of COVID on binge watching, the TikTok saga, its death, grossly exaggerated, is still here, but spawned a series of lookalikes, if you want to call it, in that sort of micro video community. We got the idea that people are doing virtual movie nights now because you can't go to the movie theater. Everything is going live, from sports to Instagram Live, Facebook Live, obviously TikTok. So live is in vogue, and that's probably going to be part of the roundtable discussion later. And then just the overall household penetration of connected TV surpassing linear. So look, I read one of the best memes I think I saw for 2020 was that it stated 2020 was like a dumpster fire parked next to a nuclear reactor. And I think even as we entered 2021, we kind of still felt like it was on fire. We were just closer to a fire station. I think we knew how to deal with how to put it out and get it under control. But clearly, we're feeling some of the after effects, and not only around media consumption and how behaviors are shifted, but how we are just juggling the ask of the modern day marketer. So let's get into like where a lot of the insights really start to come around all things video. From this TV everywhere concept to just the proliferation of video. That you almost have to look at it as its own massive channel in itself. So it really started around the notion of time shift. People weren't turning off linear TV or turning off this particular platform or turning off YouTube. They were shifting time to other platforms. So it doesn't matter if it was Facebook Watch, Instagram Reels. I mean, you can go through the litany of way in which we started binge watching, even if it was under the notion of escapism. So obviously budgets have to start to follow where time and attention goes. This was part of the reason that the IAB kind of coined the phrase, the attention stack. All those platforms for which we are burying our attention through a day-to-day basis. And that became the currency, was the product, not what they want. where time is in you can look, you can
Lisa or Steve, we should step in here. It looks like this may not come back.
Hey. Hey, guys. Can you guys
Hey,
hear me?
Lisa.
Okay, so Walt, we lost Albert, but are you guys here?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm seeing faces move. So, I mean, obviously we're talking, I'm sorry, I was sending an email, so I don't know what the last thing was said. But where did we leave off? And then I can fill in from here. Taylor, was it you or who was talking?
So, I mean, Albert was talking about the attention stack and really how we see consumers are shifting to TikTok and these other video-based channels, and really how are we as marketers catching up. Albert may be back. Albert.
Albert?
I am back. Sorry about that.
Okay. I'm here and I will take closer attention. I'm right in front, but I actually had to get an email out. So, but anyway, Albert, you take over but I'm right here if you need me.
No, that's good. So I'm not sure, but let me just kind of pick up dynamically. I think what we wanted to get into was, this notion of how messy 2020 was. And I'd kind of kick the conversation to John first. When you think about the notion of cross-channel, cross-channel is a conversation for video in itself, just because of the amount and the proliferation of platforms, just as video is an option. So I'd be curious to hear from John in the sense that, what are some of the pivots that you had to make in that cross-channel conversation, just looking at the time shifting and behaviors in 2020 coming into 2021?
Yeah, it's a great question. And, we've been using YouTube video across different platforms, mobile, desktop, and CTV over the course of several years. And last year was something really interesting. And, probably everybody on this call knows, with COVID, the shift happened in consumption. And what we had previously saw was most people were, snacking YouTube videos on their mobile phones. And
Right.
Mobile, that's the majority of where our video impressions were coming from. Last year was the biggest shift we've ever seen from our YouTube campaigns, where the majority of the viewership shifted over to CTV.
Wow.
So that was quite a big insight from us. We had a thought that might happen just because of the proliferation of CTV and, Roku, the penetration was gaining speed, and, the investment that some of the broadcasters were making in the space. We thought that would take a little bit more time, but obviously COVID sped that up quite a bit.
Right.
So last year, we saw that through YouTube. It was a new shift for us and something that we traded off and started to look at CTV, ways for us to tap into that more programmatically. Also, our budgets kind of shifted a little bit more to the downside. So we had to be a little bit more nimble and flexible with our media spend, especially with regards to video. So that's where CTV and OTT really played a part of being a bigger role in our media plans, just because of the flexibility, the programmatic aspect, and we can still lay in some of our data-driven insights and targeting capabilities. So for us, that's really where, within the video channel mix, that's where the shift kind of happened for us.
That's great. Great context, and great about the findings around a lot of it shifting to CTV from YouTube, even though YouTube provides a lot of the inventory. Matt, let me kind of ask you, you're talking about selling insurance, that's a long lead selling proposition. It's like selling a house, selling a car. When you start to think about it, the time shifting to snackable video platforms. Okay, so you're used to a long sell-through process, but now what's in vogue are platforms where people essentially watch videos for 15 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds. What kind of challenges does that pose when you have a product that really needs to be sold at depth, And what's white hot are platforms where the attention span is so in and out.
Yeah. So, you know, for us, we've always really kind of had this audience uniformity, platform agnostic approach, right? So we don't really care too much about the platform we're on as long as we're meeting the customer where they're consuming content. We've
Right.
seen that shift a lot more to Instagram and TikTok this year than we probably would have thought. But we've had to be a lot more agile in our creative, right? So we've figured out how do we cut, or we've learned a lot on how do we cut, you know, what we used to explain in 30 or 60 seconds down into 6-second bites or 15-second bites that we could run
Right.
on TikTok and be very targeted at the context of that kind of click through matches the ad, right? So thinking about if it's a quote, like a request for a quote, make sure that's coming to a quote page. If it's learning about, you know, we've gone things, educational pieces, learn about riders, learn about you know, different types of products, and making sure just that we have a much better fluid kind of contextual journey, as opposed to the past we used to just drop everybody off on the homepage and let them kind of navigate.
Right.
You notice
Right.
with shorter content has to be, you know, a much more defined path for that user.
That's great. I mean, that's great context. So Taylor, I'm gonna throw it to you. I mean, look, you're benefiting from the self-care movement. You know, I think we all knew it was a thing, but it literally got operationalized as a household sort of name. So when you think about Snap, TikTok, Triller, Instagram Reels, you know, what are some of the things that you saw allowed your brands to be present in real time? And I think that's probably the difference when you think about the linear TV strategy that has a long roadmap between getting prepped to run, getting spots done, and then just the flighting to the fact that, okay, self-care is hot. There's all these topics popping. We can be really turnkey, not overly judge ourselves, and be in market in light speed. So share some of that. I think that'd be some great context for the audience.
Totally. And it really differs so much between the three brands that I'm working across. So Stop Aging Now, we're targeting baby boomers who are still very much on linear TV, and we've actually partnered with folks like Simul Media, Tatari, to bring that more real-time measurement into the world of linear TV, which was traditionally harder to measure. And I know yesterday we talked a little bit about how we're seeing this shift from GRPs and more data that is actually connected to conversion events, which we saw just a second ago, how important those are to this whole performance mindset that we're really seeing sprinkled on top of everything in media. But for something like Objective Wellness, where we just set up that brand a year and a half ago, so we just launched November 2019, much younger millennial oriented, and that's really where we're focused on doing this rapid testing around channels like TikTok, Snap, testing out video placements on Amazon and their new sponsored brands unit. And there is really where we're seeing the consumption demands meet what we're selling. And yeah, definitely still trying to find that ideal mix, but it's a work in progress, and I think will be a lot more defined here in the year, and it's part of the challenges that come with standing a brand up.
Right.
Albert, I just wanted to add something. You know, we talk about the shift in consumer behavior, but you know, a lot of us were impacted too about trying to tell our story from a production standpoint.
Yes.
So for us, you know, TV production was basically shut down. So it was interesting that we kind of leaned on influencers to kind of help come to the table and tell our story from a production standpoint, just because it's a little bit easier for them to kind of execute that storytelling in a one-to-one manner versus having everybody on a TV set to help execute a TV program or commercial. So I think that's where we kind of leaned on it from a production standpoint, is a great way to get your message out there quickly, efficiently, and effectively, given the time we were in.
It's a great point, and I obviously live the same dynamics. You guys kind of tip the scales into probably the most important conversation. That's really the consumer funnel. You know, obviously comes down to the targeting. So a lot of it is, what should the approach be? So Matt, I kind of start with you, obviously sitting on the acquisition side. I'm sure you have to level set people that every video offering on the internet is not an acquisition.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So interestingly enough, about 60% of our sales actually have a video impression someplace in the touch point in the journey. But I think we were a little bit naive, especially at the beginning of COVID, when we saw this like massive expansion across all channels, all platforms, that all video would kind of convert equally, right? And what we've kind of learned through testing and iteration over the last 8-9 months is that definitely there's upper funnel video and there's lower funnel video, right? We look at TikTok and OTT and some of these other video platforms really about, driving to the site, building out strong remarketing audiences that we can, then hit with a lower funnel Facebook, Instagram, YouTube ad, right? So it's how do we make video actually work in conjunction? Because I think the idea, our initial thought was, it's multifaceted. It would work the same across all channels. Definitely not. And I think you have to just understand what your metrics, what your allowables are for upper funnel video. What is that ideal kind of cost per acquisition to just get a user into your funnel, and kind of push them down with more tailored, again, back to that previous response of mine, but tailored messaging, lower funnel, action oriented, experience matching the creative, etc. Oh, I think you might be on mute.
I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. John, I would have to imagine that from a cross-channel perspective, you're starting to look at assigning roles for video types. What is really top of funnel, what's bottom of funnel, what may have full funnel, meaning you can pull somebody from awareness all the way in through. So I would love to get some context as to how do you apply that lens? Because I'm sure a lot of it has to be an education process back through internally in an organization to really defining, okay, what are micro community video communities going to do versus a YouTube versus a CTV versus a VOD versus the FEP and the like. So take us through some of the journey of thought process of you guys having to sort of manage that.
Yeah, for us, there's a variety of different campaigns and lines of businesses that we work on. Some are more that I work on are more upper funnel and awareness and consideration. The thing with video is that, there are some research and some measurement tools out there where we can show potentially what the low funnel conversions are or to low funnel conversion is with regards to our video investment, and whether that's OTT or traditional broadcast, where we could take a look at search behaviors once an ad has been shown or viewed. We can get some sort of measurement of intent to a lower funnel acquisition type of metric. So from my standpoint, brand awareness and consideration is more upper funnel, but we do have some indication as to what it could lead to with regards to lower funnel conversions.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. So we may circle back later. Taylor, I'm going to throw it to you. Anyone who has the title over the storm last year, explain to us, like, one of the things you probably had to get to is say, look, everything is not ideal for a direct to consumer transaction. So maybe you can share some of the things you've dealt with in terms of level setting people as it pertains to, like, look, can't DTC everything in the world here. They're just tools as it pertains to channels that make the most sense. So share a little of your thinking.
Yeah, so Albert, I think we got a little interference. I think the question is the context and really which we're looking to leverage video in the D2C context. And
yeah,
for that, I think this is essentially the golden era for video in D2C and really marketing as a whole. I think if anyone in marketing really wants a masterclass at deploying video effectively, just get into like Grammarly's 8 Sleeps, boy, even CallRail, back when I was looking for a call vendor a few years back, and the amount of education that they do through their retargeting and the amount of different angles that they are hitting consumers through their low funnel intent-based audiences on YouTube. I think really we're seeing how video had historically been viewed as a cost inefficient pure prospecting mid-funnel and in some instances full funnel campaign. But the fact that there are certain contexts where video can actually be a lower funnel efficiency driver if you're correctly targeting high intent audiences, doing so at a sensible scale, not trying to spend hundreds a day against a small audience. So we're really actually seeing success there, but also deploying video on like Amazon again through their DSP retargeting, through their sponsored brands videos, where we're actually able to make sure that we're appearing for these high intent keywords. I know our social team is obviously looking for ways that we can expand video and can tailor more creative to work either cross-platform, both square and vertical, or tailor more concepts to be more placement agnostic. But I think really those are just a few of the directions that we're seeing video make sense in that D2C context.
Gotcha. Listen, you got onto something as well as intent. And I want to kind of circle back to this topic, and I'll start with you since you're still on it. I mean, when you think about self-care and how it kind of took off, a lot of things will work naturally. It's kind of like rising tides lifts all boats. Do you feel like in certain respects from 2020 to 2021,
Guys, I'm going to jump in here anyway. Albert, I don't know if you can hear me, but we have some questions for you guys anyway. So I'd like to start with that because I know, Albert, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in on you, but we do have some questions. And at this point, I think we're having, I so appreciate your effort. Unfortunately, the sound keeps going out and there's a lot of, and we're at a point now anyway, where I'd love to let the attendees have an opportunity to ask. So I know Freddie, you're there for a question. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
I think that's like the famous video conference way to start, isn't it? So Freddie Godfrey here from Origin. I've loved listening to you guys. I've got a couple of questions. One first for you, John, in particular. How much do you differentiate between CTV and the broader umbrella of OTT when it comes to your integrated marketing? Do you typically expect or apply the same video creative rules, guidelines, and KPIs, etc.? Or are you very much separating and putting CTV in its own bucket? That's my first question, if that's okay.
Yeah, so for us, we view it as a whole, OTT and CTV. For us, it's kind of a targeting capability, and regardless of what platform it's on, that's where the consumer is, that's where we want to be. We just tailor the creative to those different platforms. So it's a little bit different than what we do from a broadcast standard 30-second unit.
Sure. And okay, thank you so much. And then I'll be really quickly, so I promise. Matt, you said something that I thought was really interesting. Where in the funnel, like, again, it's all about, we are a CTV in your business. Where in the funnel do you consider like CTV? Do you really consider it, and I guess a bit for you, or all of you, mainly about awareness, or do you expect it to put people in the funnel?
Both. So we use it, so I'll be pretty brief, but we have a defined target audience that we want to hit. So we use it as an introductory awareness acquisition channel, right? But we also do CTV remarketing, right? So depending on kind of the segmentation we have for you on our site, depending on how you've interacted, you go into certain buckets. Some of those buckets get CTV remarketing, some don't.
Okay, excellent. And then my final question, which is super, super quick, I promised, is like, do any of you, when it comes to connected TV, do you feel like restricted on your creatives when it comes to CTV? Like, do you think you only are able to have a handful of assets, or if you could have like 1,000 different ones, would that be something that you would like jump at?
For us, it depends on ease of scale, right? Is it easy to scale to 1,000? Then maybe, right? But if it's something we have to produce 1,000 of, we'd probably be better with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Same here. Yeah, you have to manage production budgets too and time. And, you know, we just don't have that much time to produce 1,000 pieces of creative, and not sure you're going to learn too much by kind of blanketing out tons of creative. So I think being really finite with your resources and being really prescriptive about test and learn and what you want to get out of that is the best approach, at least for our standpoint.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much. Well, I'm not here to pitch what I do, but I'm really grateful for your time. So thank you so much, guys.
Great, thanks.
Freddie.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, well, I think that covers it. I'm so sorry that we've been having a little technical issues, but you guys were great anyway. So I really appreciate the patience. And Albert, like I said, you are such a trooper that you came back and you're still trying. And I was basically the drinking game. See when the girl popped in and out, pop in and out.
I appreciate it.
So, but it was still awesome. You guys gave what you could talk about, you were able to, and really appreciate that. So thanks so much, all of you, for joining us and being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for having us.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
All right.